Hello everyone, it's Forest Focus as it finishes 1-1 between Nottingham Forest and Wolves at the City Ground in the Premier League today. We'll discuss the goals, the penalty appeals and the subs in the company of, first of all, Paul Morley. Paul, good to have you with us. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Matt. Not too bad. Having woken up this morning hoping for 3 points and some Oasis tickets and getting neither, I can be content with a positive performance and hopeful of some new dates being released by Oasis.
On hold all day?
Pretty much, yeah. Refreshing a lot.
Nightmare.
Without any joy.
Second guest is Ruby Naylor. Good to have you back with us. How are you, Ruby?
I'm pretty good. Definitely feeling decent about today. More positives than negatives, which is always something to put a smile on my face. So feeling good.
Good. Kick us off then, Ruby. What did you make of it in general today before we get into some specifics?
Yeah, like I said, definitely more positive in terms of like overall in the team and then in the players as well, getting to see some of Sosa and Jota, which was good. And some positives from Sangare, Alanga, Hudson-Odoi a little less, but I'd give that more credit to Semedo for kind of shutting him down more than anything. A good goal and then a good offside goal, but unfortunate that my biggest thing about that was he was offside and then had to step onside to come back for the ball, which was a little ironic. Again, the same sort of thing, not being able to hold on to a lead, dropping points from a leading position again, but still back to what I said at the beginning, more positive than negative. So I don't want to harp on anything. I'm happy with how we looked overall.
We were a little late, starting. Paul kindly put in the chat that I had some sound problems and I haven't really fixed them. So hopefully this sounds okay, but good to have everyone with us. Do hit like on the stream if you haven't already. It was interesting, Paul. I was in the ground. People seemed kind of a little bit flat at the end. I think people felt like we played quite well around me, but maybe should have won. I had a quick flick through Twitter and it was as divided as ever. What did you make of it?
Yeah, obviously I didn't go today, but I guess I went to Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago and obviously with the same result. And I feel better about today than I did about Bournemouth. I think look, if you look at the stats in the match, going into half time, both teams were pretty even. I think the shots were even, touches in the opposition box was even. So it was a real sort of 50-50 game at half time. I think I texted you saying that, it feels like it's a game that's set up for us to use our bench and for people to come off the bench and make the difference in the second half. And perhaps we might have left that 5 or 10 minutes late. But even so, statistically wise, we were certainly, the team that were going for it in the second half. The stats bear that out. We finished comfortably ahead on, people like XG. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but comfortably ahead on that, comfortably ahead on chances and touches in the box. So yeah, I think for me it was an all-round positive performance. We definitely finished the game a lot stronger compared to obviously Bournemouth. I know it's slightly different because we were hanging on for trying to hang on rather than push for a win. But it was encouraging to see, I guess, the likes of finishing the game with both Wood and Taiwo up front. That kind of was a good measure of, I think, Nuno's positive intent, which is the right way to go. And I think if we play like that every week or every home game against those sorts of teams, we'll win probably more than we don't. So yeah, overall I was pretty content with the performance. Obviously disappointed we couldn't take all 3 points, but I think taking a step back, 3 games in, 5 points is probably about right. 7 certainly wouldn't have flattered us. So I think we're kind of where we should be. I think it's ironic, isn't it? I kind of rather prefer having 5 points than 6, perversely, because got to take that unbeaten run into the international break is quite a nice feeling. So yeah, overall pretty positive.
There's a few points in the chat which kind of reflected what people were saying, the eavesdropping on conversations. We might as well tackle them now. Steve Battlemuch here. Good to see you at the NAV today, Steve. The winger sub should have come on earlier, I think. I heard quite a few people saying that. The people I were with, Elliot and Aaron, we kind of felt Ruby. I mean, I think Nuno made the right subs. I think he made them 15 minutes too late. Is that fair or not?
Yeah, I don't think Sosa was until the 80th minute, and then Jota was like around the 90th, which I get that we had 10 minutes of stoppage time, but you couldn't. I mean, I guess technically you could predict that, but you didn't know that. So theoretically, I mean, not theoretically, yeah, I agree that they should have come on earlier, especially because Sosa came on and almost looked like he was anxious to prove himself, doing a lot really quickly. And he came on and he had that really good, the ball where he picked out Nico, which was fabulous. But I do think they deserve more time, and I definitely don't think we can make any solid decisions. I don't think we should say they can start yet. Definitely not, especially because Hudson-Odoi and Alenga had both proven themselves. But as I said before, because Hudson-Odoi was shut down and he could not cut in like he wants to at all, Semedo knew exactly what he wanted to do and saw through it every single time. So I do think the Sosa sub specifically should have been around the 60th minute, like when Sangare came off and Yates came on. So yeah, I do think they could have been made earlier. Hindsight, of course, but I love the idea of them. So far, the two of them look great, both Jota and Sosa. But yeah, overall, I would agree. A little earlier would have been better.
With the starting wingers, an issue is not the right word, Paul, really. But in terms of end product, Elanga maybe disappointed a little bit with his end product today, I think. And you see with Callum, teams are definitely doubling up on him. And they've really, we know what he wants to do. They know what he wants to do. And so far this season, they found a way to stop him. Was that one of the issues today in terms of chance creation, do you think?
Yeah, I had down in my notes, he looked a bit one-dimensional today. So I guess he arguably he does always. But I think that's where, moving forward, and I think we might have talked about this the other day, after the Newcastle game, if Moreno comes into the team, as opposed to, say, Aina, that gives the fullback of the opposition sort of both sides to worry about, because you've got the likelihood that someone's going to potentially overlap and go in behind. So you have to be a little bit cautious, which potentially then opens up more space for Hudson-Odoi to come inside. And again, we obviously without having that sort of overlapping option. I know Aina did do it once or twice, but without consistently doing that, then again it's easier, as Ruby said, for the defenders to sort of keep that inside covered for Hudson-Odoi and sort of smother any chances that he has. So yeah, he was okay today. And I think if Moreno comes into the team, which I expect him to in the near future, then that hopefully will have a positive impact on Hudson-Odoi. Elanga again, he's got into some good positions. I think there's a couple of early crosses or early opportunity to get the ball in the box. I think again it's a case of it's early season. I'd be comfortable persisting with Elanga. He's certainly got lots of positive attributes, hasn't he? So it's just a question of continuing to work on the end product, as you say, and actually some of the time you've got to look at what's the movement in the box as well. Is there enough players arriving in the box? Is there enough movement in the box to give him targets? So I think it's a combination of things, but again, I guess both of them would be 6.5, 7 out of 10 today. I think didn't do anything sort of terrible, but at the same time, didn't quite produce any magic moments.
Yeah, I mean, you make good points. I agree about Moreno overlapping. It'll make teams mean they can't double up on him, or will have a massive overload at the back post. So that's something that will develop, certainly. Lose my voice a bit, sorry. I got to bed at 2:30 in the morning yesterday, which was fun. So apologies if my voice goes. Let's go back to the beginning, Ruby. We score a good goal from a corner. We'll ask about corners a bit more later, but in terms of the goal and Chris Wood's performance, left on for the entirety of the game, and probably out of necessity, what did you make of him and the goal we scored?
I'll start with the goal. I think this is one of the first times I've ever said that looked straight out of the training ground from us, that looked like Anderson knew exactly who he wanted to pick out, and he picked him out on his head perfectly. And then all Wood had to do was redirect it, and he did it fantastically. I thought he had a really good performance in terms of being a poacher. Obviously, both his goals were like right by the 6-yard box. But where he concerns me is when our wingers are on a break, he's nowhere to be found. He gets stuck back. He's not quick enough, or he's out of position, and then they have nobody to find. Sometimes Gibbs White is up there, but obviously if we had two, it'd be better. So I would like somebody that was a little quicker, but overall I thought Wood had a great performance in doing what we needed him to do. Unfortunate on the second goal, as I mentioned in the beginning, he was half a step offside. It was like just his heel or something like that. I don't remember exactly, or the heel just tucked him offside. But the thing that was frustrating was, as I said, he had to take a step back onside to come to the ball. So if he had just been in line, obviously, it would have been perfect. But I'm happy with his performance. I don't think he necessarily needed to come off, especially because when Awani came on, we saw a whole lot of nothing. But overall, happy with the goal. Great to see a set piece go in. Wonderful from Anderson there. And yeah, overall happy.
You didn't see it. When you say we saw a whole lot of nothing from Tyro, what do you mean? You mean he was just bustling about and not?
Yeah,
not
and just didn't notice him. Like when I was running through the game, and I had almost forgot that he came on at all. Which maybe that was me just not noticing and paying attention way more to the wingers who had just come on, wanting to see what we're going to see from them. But I didn't really see anything from him. I just didn't notice.
He looked physically fine in the ground
Yeah.
for 10 minutes. I mean, obviously, him playing so long in the week wasn't what we wanted, I think. But yeah, he's very rusty. I think that's why Wood stayed on for so long, personally. Corners, Paul. It's quite ironic that we scored from a corner. We kind of want James Ward-Prowse taking them. Elliot Anderson's deliveries are incredibly hit and miss. But was Elliot Anderson the best player certainly Forest's best player, arguably the best player on the pitch for at least 60, 70 minutes today?
Yeah, I definitely had Anderson down as player of the game. Corners wise, yeah, I mean, God, he was like last week at Southampton. They were dog awful. So there's definitely an improvement today, even though it was, as you say, a bit 50-50. Yeah, and I thought what he gave the team. There was obviously a couple of instances we saw in the second half where made some sort of jinking runs in and around the box and really showed what a threat he can be in that area of the pitch. But similarly, I thought as well, tracking back, there was a couple of times where he really worked hard to track back and sort of got in front of the man and tidied up some sort of tricky situation. So yeah, for me, he was fantastic, and I think he's absolutely earned that spot in the side next to Sangare. I'm sure we're coming to talk about him shortly, but yeah, for me, Anderson was a definite sort of 8 out of 10, and was probably our best player today.
What about Ward-Prowse then, Paul? Because we say he's earned that spot in the side. I think he has. I mean, he's very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I mean, Ward-Prowse has obviously come in. If you think, certainly from a body's perspective, obviously he replaces Danilo in terms of the squad for the next few months. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting to see how we fit Ward-Prowse in, because I saw a tweet the other day looking at his stats for West Ham last year, and he was pretty much top of the tree for lots of different things, not just obviously sort of set piece and goal creation, but a number of other key stats as well. So he's clearly got more to his game than just set pieces. I think looks like anybody else, he's going to have to bide his time and earn his spot in the team through performances in training. I'm sure he'll obviously get minutes off the bench. I'm sure of that, particularly if we're in situations like we were today where we were pushing. I mean, he would have been an ideal person to bring on today, given the amount of sort of pressure we were applying. If we get him on, win some free kicks in and around the box. We had a number of corners as well in the last 15, 20 minutes. He would have been perfect for that situation to come on and hopefully make a difference. So, I think, certainly going forward, unless there's any injuries to Anderson, I would think, Ward-Prowse is going to have to bide his time to start, but I'm certain he can make an impact when he gets the chance.
Robbo is a genius in the comments saying Lamina gave Anderson a run for his Murillo as well. I do think Murillo's good. I do think Lamina was good, and Cunha, I would really love him in our team. I think he's class, and also Craig Dawson. The spine of the Wolves team was good. And Steve McQueen in the comments saying give Wolves credit, they played well. I thought the spine of Wolves team was very strong and made it difficult for us. There's a few divided comments there on Sangare, Ruby. I thought he was good. Booking really, really hampers him, and he's got 3 yellows already this season. That's one of the biggest issues for me. But in terms of Ward-Prowse playing, Sangare, does he still have to be in the team for you because of what he is and what we don't necessarily have to cover his style of play if he's not in the side?
I don't know if he has to be. I think have is a strong word. I think until Ward-Prowse settles in and gets used to our players, Sangare is obviously good to have. I think with everybody being so divided on him, it's that he's an easy target. Every match, it seems that we're always divided how we feel. I thought today he looked great. He won. I'm pretty sure he had the most duels won, even though he came off pretty early. I think he was our earliest sub. But yeah, he looks really good in terms of defense. My worry is when he runs, it just looks like something's weighing him down. So if he gets caught out of position, we're in trouble, especially because Milenkovic looks relatively slow as well. And I know his thing is aerial duels and it's not his speed. But that is definitely something that's worrying him, having to track back and whatnot, if he's up for a corner, etc. But I thought he had a good performance. I'd give him 7.5 out of 10. I think people are always really harsh on him. I don't know what it is. I think I don't know. I guess people expect him to be Rodri, but that's not the case. But I thought he did well, and I think people are so hard on him, and I don't get it. I will criticize a player when it's due, but I don't think he was even close to our worst player today. I don't know if I would easily pick out a terrible player, but it definitely wasn't Sangare.
Is it his use of the ball, Paul? Maybe I think that's when he was signed. The kind of the scouting around him was he'll win the ball, which he did. He'll pick off tackles, pick off interceptions, but his use of the ball isn't good. I don't know what his. Someone says his passing percentage is 75%. If that's true, that's very low for a player in his position. So I'd have to check that out. Is that what stands out? Like Ruby says, sometimes you pick on a player because he does have the odd absolutely howling pass where he gives it away. Does that stand out with Sangare? Maybe, I don't know.
Possibly. I think maybe it's because we're expecting so much of him because of his price tag and so on and so forth. I think if again, taking a step back, think of the Sangare that I saw last season was laboured, struggling, wasn't having an impact in breaking up play, and similarly was, apart from the odd game, I think probably Newcastle away and Man United at home, we've talked about, he had a couple of good games there, but by and large he was off the pace last year. I think what he's definitely doing better is breaking up play. He definitely is having an impact on disrupting the opposition when they have the ball. So thumbs up to him for that. That's a definite improvement. Can he work on his distribution, his passing? Absolutely. There's a couple of times that I'm sure we'll come on to it, but even the goal where it wasn't just him that sort of it was questionable on their goal, but just a little bit sloppy, sort of lazy play with that sort of ball that sort of was sort of looped across the pitch rather than could he have looked to play that more a bit up the line and just play the percentages a bit more. So there's things like that which absolutely can work on. But like I say, he definitely improved from the Sangare that we had this time last year, and we just need to, I think, give him time, give him minutes. Hopefully he will improve his distribution as well. But if he doesn't, then that probably is a concern that I don't know how we address it, but it's something that needs working on, in whether it's in training or maybe he has a couple of games out the side, and obviously we've got enough bodies in that area of the pitch that could potentially do a job. I guess the question is, you mentioned before about the duels. If you take him out the side, what do we miss in that sort of ball winning capacity, which he does offer quite a lot, and certainly has done this season.
Yeah, there are a couple of times that also go unnoticed where he stick a foot in and it'll go out for a throw or something. But if he doesn't get a foot in, then Wolves are in or the opposition are in. And I think sometimes that goes unnoticed. We haven't mentioned the Wolves goal, Ruby. In the ground, it looked like unbelievable, unstoppable. I watched it back on my phone once, and I think Paul's right. Maybe we could do a bit more. I don't know. What did you think?
I will say I do think, again, I agree with Paul that was a lackluster Sangare clearance. And from the TV at first glance, that looked like a fantastic shot, fantastic goal. But I almost wonder if, and this is being devil's advocate, if somebody with a 6'8" stature gets a finger on that, I'm not sure. It looked like it landed more centrally than I had originally thought. I thought it was perfectly top bin. Then watching it back, it was a good 2-ish feet towards the center, maybe a foot and a half. Great shot, though. I'm not going to credit where credit's due to Bellegarde. I think that's how you pronounce it. Wonderful shot. I can't do it. Can't claim to do it. So credit to him. But, of course, we can always do better defensively, clearance-wise, but credit where it's due.
Any further thoughts on the goal, Paul, from having watched
it? I think it was a bit of a collective sort of, I'd say failing, but there's probably three players that could have done better. So obviously we talked about Sangare. I don't think it was the greatest sort of clearance. I thought Hudson-Odoi was a little bit weak in the air when the ball, effectively it was a 50-50 challenge that Hudson-Odoi, and I forget which Wolves player it was that sort of won it, but Hudson-Odoi for me could have been a bit stronger there. And then when it drops, Aina's sort of caught in two minds as whether he comes to close down or whether he sort of holds back and blocks, and in the end did neither. I don't think there's any blame for Sells. I mean, obviously Miguel arguably might have had a better shot at saving it purely because of his stature, but I don't think Sells is to blame there. I think 95% of goalkeepers in the league are not saving that shot, so I don't attach any blame to him. But yeah, it's just a bit of a collective sort of failing of 2 or 3 players that probably could have done better, that might have prevented that shot from giving Sales any trouble at all, and having reached them in the first place. So things to work on. I'm sure they'll dissect it when they sit down and watch the game back. But it was an unfortunate sort of situation really that we probably could have dealt with a bit better.
320 people watching, which is great. Do us a favour and hit like on the video if you haven't already. We'll take a word of the Trent Navigation. I'm going to play a video that they've asked me to plug. I've never seen it, so we'll wing this together, everyone. What is it? Oh, it's a comedy night. There you go. Laughed a lot. It is tickets £15. Search gigantic.com for more details. Thursday, the 19th of September. I'll play it again because I was completely reading that on the fly, and it's only 8 seconds long. So there you go. You can see the lineup if you're watching on YouTube. Is Thursday, the 19th of September, gigantic.com for tickets, £15. And I'm sure it'll be a good night. Speaking of good nights, next Thursday, 7 p.m. So Thursday, the 5th of September is our live show with Lewis and a few podcast regulars. We'll talk a bit more about this game and the season ahead and the transfer window. And there'll be a Q&A where you can ask Lewis anything, really. So do come along for that. What about the rest of the first half, Ruby? I thought we played quite well. We had did we have the big penalty appeal where it hit Strand Larsen on the arm? What did you make of how we went about the rest of the first half and that penalty appeal?
So starting with the penalty, I think it's one of those things where I saw people saying last year they probably would have given it, but then if you give that one, you have to give the one against Wood in the second half. So I'm all right with not getting it. It's a difficult one because it clearly hits his arm, but he's not looking, it's not intentional. I'm always big on the intent thing. I think that matters. If your arm's up here, you're not supposed to do that. It wasn't that scenario. Yeah, his arm was higher than it should be, but I would probably say Woods was more of a penalty. His arm was completely outstretched. And then in terms of the first half, I thought we closed out pretty well. I think was the Morgan Gibbs White shot, was that the end of the first half, or that was the beginning of the second?
Free kick. He had a free kick, which
that's what I meant.
Well in the first half.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I would give full credit to Johnstone for that because that was a beautiful shot. I thought we closed it out pretty well. I do think we looked a little better in the second half, but I thought we closed it out pretty strong. Unfortunate to concede right after we score, but that was way earlier in the first half. But I'm not disappointed in the way we closed it out.
No, I would agree. Comedy night updates, some actual reviews. Lou Conran and Brennan Rees are great stand-ups, and also this is Elliot saying Brennan Rees would highly recommend. So there you go for recommendations. Gregory in the comments says it was handball, a penalty. I don't know which one he's referring to, but I didn't think either were, Paul. I'm with Ruby. If I watched it back and thought, what's the fuss, to be honest? Because I don't think you can give either of those personally. What about you?
As long as the one thing you want is consistency from the officials, and we've got that. So whether it's 2 pens, whether it's no pens, I'm comfortable with both. Personally, I think I agree with you. I don't think those sort of things should be given as penalties. Probably last season, I guess we've all become a bit. You become not sanitized, but you become sort of in tuned to what referees do. And I guess over the last 2 seasons, we probably would have expected penalties for both of those. And the fact that they're now not being given, I think, is better for the game, that those sorts of handballs are not being given as penalties. I was comfortable with both decisions. Like I say, consistency is the key. And we got that today. I know there'll probably be some comments about the ref. And I think he was sort of a bit over officious. He was quite fussy. He was blowing up a lot, which broke up the play. But I do think, by and large, he got most of the big calls right. I suppose the only one that I've got written down, which it maybe warrants discussion, is I think it was Totti. I think you pronounce it. Could he have had a second yellow for a challenge on Singare? It was not long after he'd been booked for a pullback, I think, just towards the end of the first half. I think if you watch it again, replay-wise, it was more a case of his knee going into Sangare's calf rather than his boot, which probably just about saved him, and again was probably just about the right decision not to give him a second yellow. But I've seen a few comments saying that could have been a second yellow, but I think he's probably got it right on the balance.
Yeah, I mean, you can't give penalties. I know Davies in the chat saying they were both penalties. if you've got your back to the play and it hits you on the arm, I don't see how that's a penalty, because that could happen any time out of just misfortune. So yeah, for me, neither of them were penalties, and happy to move on. What did you make of the ref, Ruby? I'll weigh in as well, but what did you think about his performance?
Yeah, I didn't notice anything too absurd. I wasn't particularly freaking out about anything. Simon Hooper, I believe that's who it was today, the ball guy. He, I don't know, I never particularly feel any sort of type of way about it. I'm okay with it because we've had such bad referee performances in the past. I think when we get a decent / mediocre referee performance, I'm like 10 out of 10, fantastic. Let's see it again. So I'm just happy he didn't give the second one, because I feel as though if this is a match last season, even though we don't get the one in the first half, for some reason that's being called against us in the second half. So I'm okay with his performance. I don't know if it looked different on the ground, but on TV there wasn't anything where I was upset about in terms of calls.
It's very people were really, the first half people were really angry with him in the ground. Lots of little niggly fouls that broke up the game, which helps Wolves as well as the away team. There were a couple of ones that got people's backs up. There was a handball, and he said no foul. Murillo played on, and then it felt like 3 seconds later,
I remember that. Yeah,
he said, "Oh, that was a foul," so that was annoying. And there was another one, and if you watch a replay, it might have actually been a foul, but it looked like two Wolves players tripped each other up, and he gave a foul against Sangare in the centre circle, and that irritated people. I saw Danscape in the chat earlier say, and I did notice this as well, he very nearly gave the Wood handball, so it was a great relief that he wouldn't, because I think VAR would have backed him up, as they always do. So yeah, that was it. Second half, I thought he was fine, but first half, very, very niggly. And Wolves are quite smart as well with time wasting. Like I mentioned Craig Dawson earlier. Milenkovic did it at Southampton as well. Oh, I've got cramp, I'm in agony, get the physios on. Milenkovic today, Dawson today. No, it wasn't fouled. We won a free kick, stayed down like he snapped his ankle and was straight up. And I don't like it, but I think you kind of give players a nod of street smarts in the sense for doing that. So it was a very broken up game in a sense, and I think Nuno on the radio afterwards said it ruined our rhythm, I think was what he said. So yeah, I think that was fair enough. What about could we have done more, Paul, second half, in terms of, do we create enough chances? We create some big chances, I guess, because Nico had one over at the bar. Johnson made a few good saves. It's not, we're a bit like Brentford. We don't create a huge volume of chances, do we? But do we create enough big chances?
Yeah, I think the two you just mentioned, the ones that sort of stick out. Obviously, that was a credit where it's due for Johnson. That was a good save, lovely little dink by Morgan, wasn't it, over to Chris Wood to get his head on. And then, as Ruby said earlier, when Sosa picked out Williams, could he have hit it first time? I thought maybe. I haven't seen it. He controlled it well. He created the space, and just had it been half a yard lower, it probably would have clipped the underside of the bar and gone in. I think Ollie made a good point in their chat about when we get teams like we did today, they were carrying 3 or 4 yellow cards for quite a long time, and we had that against Bournemouth as well earlier in the season. And I don't think we don't sort of attack the guys that. There you go. That's the comment. We don't attack their or pinpoint the players enough. Perhaps we're not. Again, that's talking about smarts and talking about the way that Wolves were pretty smart today in terms of the way that they broke up the game. That's probably something that we could be better at in terms of targeting individuals who are on yellows and pinning them one-on-one and putting them under pressure. Which I think we didn't do enough of today. But yeah, come back to the point about creating chances. I think it's at the beginning. I think if we play like that, more often than not, the chances will convert. I think we're just lacking a little bit of cutting edge, aren't we, at the moment in and around the box? So, we're playing really nicely up until the 18-yard box, and you just kind of get that feeling when you're watching. You think, oh, we're going to. You kind of don't feel like we're about to score. I don't know what it is. It's difficult to describe, but you kind of always feel that we're probably going to just hit it wide, or keeper's going to make a save, it's going to be a block. You don't feel as though 100% confident that we're going to convert our chances, and it's a real fine line between feeling that confidence that someone's going to stick it in the back of the net, or feeling that it's going to be more of a surprise if the ball goes in rather than expecting it to. So look, it's time, it's patience, it's confidence, isn't it? And obviously next game is a tricky one, Liverpool away. But I think is it next game Fulham at home. So that's coming back to targeting games, Fulham at home like we did last year. I think if we play like we did today against Fulham at home, we'll create enough chances, and we should hopefully do enough to get 3 points. But it is a I guess it's not a concern, but it's why we're probably looking for a striker, isn't it? Is to have that extra cutting edge, which we know that we've got what we've got. We've got Wood and Taiwo, so the only thing we can do is work hard with them on the training ground and keep their confidence up, and hope that they convert.
Upcoming fixtures, 3 of the next 4 are away from home. Liverpool away, Brighton away, Chelsea away, with Fulham sandwiched in the middle as the 3rd fixture there. Fulham at home. It's a bit of a sticky run, Ruby. Does that make you feel more like this was 2 points dropped, or was 1-1 about right? I don't know.
I mean, it was 2 points dropped. At the end of the day, I do think we were the better team. We did have more chances, even if we didn't create as many as we could, which brings me back to not bringing Sosa on early enough, because as I mentioned, Cho just kept wanting to shoot, kept wanting to cut in, and Sosa was looking to pick people out. So if we can bring somebody like that on earlier who will put the cross in, especially when Chris Wood does get up and he gets those headers, back to Paul's point about the Gibbs-White chip, I wish that had gone in so badly. That was one of my favorite things that I've seen from him. I'll do like a chip to a friend like in the Sunday league just for fun, but to execute that so perfectly and to put it exactly on his head I was like one of those things where I was like the audacity, but I loved it. But it was definitely 2 points dropped in my eyes. It should have been 3 points. We had more chances, a few that should have gone in. But if we can create more, I think Wood on his head will put them in. We just have to find him.
So 5 points on the board, Paul, as you say. I'll ask you about this. If you put that in the context of how we played in the games and the 4 pictures we've got coming up there, like I mentioned, Liverpool, Brighton, Chelsea away, and then Fulham at home. We got a chance to take stock. Happy with where we're at, or feeling slightly differently?
Yeah, no, I think so. Like I said, I think 7 wouldn't have flattered us by any means. I think, had we been sitting on 7 points, I think obviously would have been feeling a lot better. But I think 5 is okay. I mean, again, somebody put in a comment, if you compare, game for game, opposition for opposition, like for like from last season, we're in the black, as it were. We're up on where we would have been for like fixtures last year. And the other thing, just looking at the league table, and again, without sort of wanting to necessarily look over your shoulder for the rest of the season, we're now 5 points clear of the bottom 3 after 3 games. So if all we do between now and the end of the season is match what the bottom 3 do, we're going to be comfortable, which may sound like a sort of pessimistic way to look at things, but actually, that's the reality. But I think we're better than that. So, plenty of reasons to be cheerful. I mean, crikey, can you imagine being sitting here tonight being an Everton fan after what they saw today? I mean, Jesus,
we have been in that exact position.
Yeah, exactly. We have been probably not as bad as that. I mean, that was what 3 in 5 minutes. Wasn't it? We sort of conceded against Bournemouth over the course of a whole half of the game a couple of years ago. But yeah, I mean, imagine how bad that would feel if you sat as an Everton fan tonight. So look, I'm okay with 5 points. Like I say, could be 7, but I think if you'd have said to us all, 2-3 weeks ago, you're going to be undefeated going into the international break. You've only conceded 2 goals, none from set pieces. We've got a win away from home. I think we probably all would be okay with that. And yes, the next 4 games, not 3 of the next 4 games, look pretty difficult. But actually, as somebody said in the comments, Stamford Bridge, last 2 seasons we've got 4 points at Stamford Bridge. So why not go there with some optimism? They are going to be clearly they were very good in the second half against Chelsea last week. But I think I saw today somebody said that even last week against Wolves, the XG, and again I know this is not an exact science, but XG wise, Wolves had more than Chelsea last week. So Wolves, maybe that was a bit of a freak result last week, and Chelsea, I'm sure we'll see them tomorrow and see what they're about. But they're going to be a mixed bag. I think this season you're going to get hit and miss performances from them. And I think that's the one thing that I feel really good about watching this Forest team is that every single game, you know that everybody that goes out there is going to be, even if there's mistakes, they're honest mistakes. Everyone is pulling in the same direction. There's a lot of effort being, everyone's leaving everything out on the pitch. No one's a passenger in games. And I think, look at some of the other teams who are struggling. Clearly, there are morale issues, and I don't think we have any of that. So I think whilst ever the morale and the team spirit is good, we keep getting 100% effort from everybody, and that's all you can ask, isn't it? And I think that will yield success in time if we keep on with that, that collective positive attitude and positive approach to games.
Yeah, we did contain Wolves well. Paul makes a good point there. Like against Chelsea, Wolves could have scored 4 or 5 goals, and I don't think Matt Sells has had anything to do apart from pick the ball out of his net, and he made a very brave dive at Cunha's feet when he walked through our defence. But I don't recall us looking too threatened otherwise. Milenkovic and Murillo look a really good pairing, so worth mentioning that again. The fullbacks are interesting. I think it's going to end up being Moreno and Aina in the medium term, and then maybe Nico, as obviously might well get his place back. But it's a good challenge for him, good challenge for Elanga now, and Hudson-Odoi. There's some actual pressure on their places, not for starts, but for minutes, I would say. I think you said that earlier, Ruby. You feel like maybe they're 4, 5, 6 games away from starting, but there's certainly pressure on their minutes now, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely goes to the bench depth that we've had now. This is definitely the most depth we've had since being in the Premier League, which is really strong, especially if we can get Awani back up to 100% match fitness. We'll have 2 strikers that could potentially be battling out for that starting position, especially when Danilo comes back in that 3 triangle with James Ward-Prowse. There'll be a lot of competition in there to get starting between the 8 and the 6. Obviously, Gibbs White is in the 10. But yeah, I think the depth shows nothing but positives, especially I think this was a really strong transfer window, relatively quiet, but some really strong signings. The James Ward-Prowse, in my eyes, came out of nowhere, but it was fantastic, especially because I thought against Southampton, the set pieces were the biggest missing part, the missing link. Obviously, Anderson much better on that front today, even Gibbs White with the shot. But I think a lot of positives in terms of the bench depth, and going forward, looking at that, it's exciting.
Good. JB, I don't know what a pub fan is, JB. You have to elaborate on what a pub fan is if I need a reality check. How did I find Safe Standing? Jonathan asked. I love Safe Standing. I think it's really good, and there's a good atmosphere in there. My only not concern was, I got in on time, but the queues to get into the ground are absolutely insane this season. I don't know if they've changed the ticketing stuff. That was I didn't go to Bournemouth. So I hope everyone got in on time, but it was just mad seeing the queues around the Brian Clough stand in particular. I'm not sure how it was in the Trent End, but a big vote of confidence from me in Safe Standing. Really enjoyed that. Charlotte asked, did we go in for Odsonne Edouard? I don't think so. If we did, then I'm sure he'd come to us over Leicester probably. Or I guess he'll get a lot of games at Leicester, more than he'll get here. So, we scrambled around for a striker, didn't get one. Just before we wrap up, Paul, actually, just picking on that as well, like Ruby says, transfer window, happy with it?
Yeah, very much so. I think I said after the Newcastle game, I hoped we didn't go panic buy from a window that we didn't want to buy from originally. And I'm glad that we didn't. I'm talking specifically about strikers. Look, it would have been great to get a striker in, but only if it's the right one. And clearly we had 2, possibly 3 targets in mind, and we didn't manage to land them. And so, therefore, I'm comfortable to stick with what we've got to. We can reassess in January. As you tweeted the other day, there's been some really successful January striker buys in the past, with Chris Wood obviously being an obvious example. So I think we're okay to get through to January. I guess the one thing that I wasn't necessarily expecting was Morato, the centre back. I think we were pretty well stocked in that area. Having said that, particularly looking at the next game, Liverpool, there's going to be obviously opportunities where Nuno's going to want to play a back 3 or 3 centre backs. So it does make sense to have a little bit more cover in that area. You'd imagine that certainly against the top 6, probably away from home, we're going to go with a back 3, and probably the top 3 or 4 at home as well. Like, Man City last year springs to mind, where we did that really successfully. I know we didn't get anything out of the game points wise, but we played really well. So when you add that together, that's kind of a quarter of the season that we're probably going to go into games with 3 centre backs. So with that in mind, that probably makes sense why we strengthened in that area. I'm also comfortable that we didn't get a goalkeeper. I know there's a lot of talk about that. I think having seen Miguel the other night and what he has to offer, I felt much more comfortable in the fact that now we've got the 2 of them. I think that's, again, we can reassess in January, but I think that's probably a sensible move, not to overload that area. So yeah, all in all, transfer window, Milenkovic, I thought interesting with Milenkovic there, who was brilliant at Southampton last week. There was a couple of moments today where I thought he looked a little bit vulnerable. There's one, wasn't there, where Cunha sort of burst away from him, and you mentioned it, where Sells sort of came out and smothered. So yeah, I think he was again, didn't do anything necessarily wrong, but there was a couple of moments there where I thought, could he be a bit stronger, could he be a bit better? But all in all, I think he's a good buy. So yeah, transfer window 8.5, 9 out of 10. I think I might put 9.25 in the comments last night, in the absence of a striker. But yeah, definitely, again, compared to last year, much more measured, much more focused, and like you say, really, really pleased with the bench depth that we've got. I know which is why we're probably a bit frustrated that we didn't use it a bit quicker today. But if I watched the Arsenal game before today, and they had 4 kids on the bench instead of Arsenal, they had 3 or 4 teenagers on the bench who were never going to get on. And we thankfully we've got a really strong bench that we can, whatever happens with injuries, whatever game situation, we now can be comfortable to call upon anybody off that bench to come on, and the level won't drop. And I think that's a real massive asset that we've got, and I think that will, as the season goes on, yield points for us. And I was hoping it would do today, but I think it will do going forward.
Yeah, Kevin in the chat makes a good point. Sells did well that Aït-Nouri chance. When Nico's got a real weakness about runners in behind him. He I don't know if he's switching off or what, but people run in behind him and the ball's played inside, and it happened again today. But Sells did well there, certainly. Milenkovic as well. He's not the quickest, is he? I think so. I don't think he can play with Willy Polly if Murillo gets injured. Well, he can, obviously, because they're both good footballers, but there'll be a weakness there, if you know what I mean. So, it's something to monitor. I muted Ruby, because the NYPD was flying past. So I will unmute you. I'm so tired. I can't believe I said Robbie. I don't even know what I'm doing. Right. But last word to you, Ruby, Naylor. Anything around, especially on the pitch? Paul talked transfers. Thoughts on the 3 games we've witnessed so far? Points tally good enough, or could we have done better for you? How do you feel about it?
I mean, we could have done better. As Paul said, 7 points wouldn't have necessarily flattered us. It wouldn't have been crazy if we took 7 points from these matches. But I'm really happy with 5. We're improving. It's more than we had last year. 5 points off the bottom, which is a funny way to put it. But, I mean, it's true. We just have to match what the bottom 3 do for the rest of the season, and we'll be fine, which I think is completely doable. I just hope that the biggest thing is carrying over from the end of last season, the fact that we can't hold on to winning 3 points from winning positions. We consistently drop from being in front. So that's my biggest concern. But as I mentioned at the beginning, way more positives from the bench depth to the starting 11's performances. I'm really excited as the season goes on. I would have loved to get a fast striker, but I'm not going to complain too much. I mean, between the physicality of Awoniyi and Wood's head, I think we've got a strong pair there once Awoniyi is fit, because I do believe he will get back to match fitness. So definitely way more positives than negatives, and I'm really excited going into international break. I'm not sad. I'm sad that there's not going to be a match, but not sad about our performances at all.
Excellent. Right. If you have enjoyed this, do us a favour. There's 320 people watching. If everyone puts a like on the video, that would help. Do subscribe, become a channel member if you would be willing and interested, and give us a good review on iTunes. And do come to the live show next Thursday, like I said, with Lewis and some of the regulars. Right, I think we'll leave it there. We're back on Monday. If anyone else has got David Prutton's number, just bombard him with text and ask him to reply to me if he's free or not. But it might be Pruts, but it will certainly be Greg and Mikey. So we'll catch up on whatever news there is and some more general thoughts. In the meantime, though, Paul Morley, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Just one word I was just going to say, look forward to hopefully seeing Morgan make his England debut over the course of the next week or so. And fingers crossed he comes back fit and healthy. And we can enjoy him for the rest of the season as well as watching him join for England.
A wonderful point. We should have said that. And I think we will, because when you look at the squad, Bellingham's injured, isn't he? So you've got to give him minutes. There's no point in being in the squad and not getting any minutes at all. Ruby Naylor, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to say. I can't believe we didn't mention that. We were just so excited about our point today that we forgot that Gibbs White is in the England squad. But yeah, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Great as always.
He was desperate to score today. You could see. I mean, the Wolves fans gave that really annoying chant. Like, he's been here 3 years and he's still chanting about his. They said girlfriend. I think he's married now, or fiance. But
I think it's his girlfriend, but they have a kid.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Yeah, you don't need to chant that kind of bullshit to him, do you? So I'm glad Forest fans got behind him. Would have been the icing on the cake if he'd scored that free kick. But to have a player in the England squad for the first time in almost 30 years is great for the football club. And just another kind of note of, the transformation that we've seen in the last 3 years. So, well done, Morgan. I never watch England friendlies, but I shall watch this one and see how you go. And see how we go with Lee Carsley in place. Right. Have a good weekend, everyone. If we don't see you on Monday, we shall hopefully see you soon.